I feel good, you look great, I like you, I can't wait.
Hi and welcome back to Rideshare Buddy UK YouTube channel. I'm Kevin and it's arrived, finally. My private hire badge for Newport Council arrived yesterday, and today I went down and did the onboarding down at Uber, which went pretty much straightforward. So I'm all set up for Ubering. I'm just now waiting for the car. I've gone to taxi rentals, and at the moment they don't have a Newport cars available, plated cars available, but they do expect to have one coming in either tomorrow or over the weekend, and that's going to be the Prius hybrid. So that's pretty good if that comes through. I've booked it for 3 months and we'll see how it goes and see what sort of long-term commitment I'm going to make. Am I going to go long-term purely rent, or shall I go for a rent to buy, or shall I actually buy a car for cash? We'll wait and see, because I haven't yet decided whether I'm going to go for a hybrid or an EV. The main thing is the next video could possibly be my first day driving for Uber. I'm going to do a week at Uber, just that one app. I've not done app driving before. I've done a lot of work in private hire, but the last time was pre-Uber. So last time I did anything was, I think, 2010, which was 2 years before Uber. And then I sold off my airport transfer company. So I've not done anything since then. I'll do a week with Uber, get used to the system, find out how to use the app, get myself placed in correct places at various times of day, see what days are busy and the like. After a week, I'll double that up with Bolt, because that's quite a quiet app, and that's going to give me the time I need to play about with double apping and things like that. And then if it's quiet and I'm not making my targets, I'll then go for a third one, maybe Vezu, and I'll also get signed up with Same Day Express and places like that. So hopefully next video is my first day, but let's see an update of what's happening on the driver's license front. And the second question I've got, well, the second topic I'm going to broach on this video is age discrimination in taxi driving. Is there some? And I think a lot of local councils currently require you to have annual medicals after the age of 65. Now, of course, retirement age now is not until 67. So basically what councils are saying is, once you reach age 65, we're going to force you to pay £120, £150 a year for a medical just to continue with driving. Now, is that legal? Well, let's take a close look. Age is a protected characteristic under the Equalities Act, so it is covered by the Equalities Act, and I've done a bit of research and I've connected up with the Equality Advisory Support Service to find out if these annual medicals after the age of 65 is legal under the Equality Act. This is the response I've had from the Equality Service regarding the situation. Now, I'm connected up with them and talked to them about this, and I said, look, I'm currently 61, that's fine, I'm having a medical to get my licence. At 65, I'll need to have another licence medical, because it's every 5 years, and that's not a problem, because I have to do that from the age of something like 40, 45, 50, 55, 60, and 65. But after 65, you need to have a medical each year. Now, I've done a little bit of I said this, 65, I'm going to have a medical every year. Is that legal? Is it required? Because I've done some research on the health aspects of being over 65, and I don't see anything major between the ages of 60 and 67 to the health outcomes of somebody who's 65. There's not a big difference. And because of that, is it illegal to force people over 65 to have an annual medical? So this is the response that I've got from them. I understand from your email that you're 61, about to start work as a private hire driver. You will require further medical at 65, but after that you'll be required to undertake a medical each year until you reach the retirement age of 67. Of course, if you're going to carry on driving after you retire, I wouldn't advise anyone over 67 to carry on. You would still need one, but up to the age of 67, which is the working age, you have not been able to find evidence that a 67-year-old is at any more risk of ill health than a 65-year-old. The very fact that the government has now increased the retirement age from 65 to 66 and now 67 would indicate the government don't think there's a particularly big extra risk of ill health for those ages. We're more living longer, we're more living more healthy. And at the end of this, I'll report on an ONS data sheet and report called Is 70 the New 60? And they'll show that today, a 70-year-old man has the same health benefits or conditions or health standards as a 54-year-old did 50 years ago. So our health is increasing, and there's really no need for that, but let's get on with it. So when advising on discrimination issues, we adopt a four-stage approach. In the first stage, we look to determine which protected characteristic from this Act may apply to your case. Now, the Equality Service that this is a government quango set up to help people deal with inequality. So the look at first is what characteristic is it? You've indicated that it would be based on age. Reference to age under the Act is a reference to an age group rather than an individual person's age. This can be quite fluid, as a person of your age, for example, i.e. 61, could be protected on the grounds that they are over 60, under 70, or older or younger than somebody else. So if I'm in, say, the 65 to 70-year-old age bracket, then I'm comparing myself with somebody who's under 65. So the second stage is they proceed to identify the sector. This is where the discrimination may have taken place. In this case, this would be employment services, because the local authority is granting me my licence and the local authority is the one who is in breach, possibly, of equality law. So in this case, this would be your employment service. In the third stage, we check to see if the employer, i.e. the local authority, is able to rely on any exceptions in the Act that would make any discrimination lawful. This is positive discrimination and such. It is unlikely that they will be able to do so in your case. So it's unlikely that there's any exceptions in the law to allow them to ask you to have more medicals. So in the final stage, we try and pinpoint the type of discrimination that may apply in your situation. Based on the information, the council may be directly discriminating against taxi drivers who are over 65. So there is that option there that the council is discriminating. So direct discrimination occurs when an employer treats an individual with a protected characteristic, by age, less favourably than they would treat others in similar circumstances. So less favourable treatment can take various forms, including bias or prejudice, stereotypical assumptions, and this is what we're looking at. People can say, oh, you're over 65, you must therefore be more ill health and more at risk of dying as somebody who's 65. That's a stereotypical assumption or preconceived attitude. So because it is based on less favourable rather than unfavourable treatment, and comparator is needed to help to make an argument for direct discrimination. In the case you refer to, it is in your email. This would be a taxi driver who was under 65. So this is where we get into a legal argument. Right, so another feature of direct discrimination is a burden of proof argument. This means that the onus is on the claimant to show that their protected characteristic, my age, was either the sole reason for the treatment they received, or that is at least played a major role or substantive part of it. In other words, the claimant would have to show that they were discriminated against before the other side would have to come up with a non-discriminatory reason for the treatment. That is a pretty obvious thing if you are 65 and you take your medical, and if you're 60 and you take medical, you don't have to have another one until 65. Once you reach 65, you have to then have one every year for no reason apart from the fact that it's your age. Then you've got your argument. Now, of course, it can be different if you've got underlying health reasons. Say, for instance, you've got very high blood pressure, which puts you more at risk of heart attack, stroke, and the like. Then the council could say that we need you to have an annual medical because of your high blood pressure. And that's fine, because they would also apply that same rule to somebody under the age of 65. It's not the age, it's the blood pressure aspect that they want to be monitored by an annual medical. So that's the thing that they can come up with for a non-discriminatory reason for the treatment. But they can't just assume that because you're over 65 that you have high blood pressure, high risk of death or heart attack. That they have to prove it for a reason. So unlike other forms of direct discrimination, direct age discrimination, and here's another part of the argument, can sometimes be objectively justified by an employer if they can show that their actions are a proportionate means of achieving a legitimate aim, or that they are a fair, appropriate and necessary. Therefore, your council would have to come up with supporting evidence that a taxi driver who was over 65 was at greater risk of ill health than a person who was under this age before being able to do so. So they've got to come with facts and figures. They can't just say, oh, well, you're older, you must therefore be at greater risk. They have to provide the figures to support that. So here's the situation. As you're not yet over 65, it would unfortunately not be possible for you to raise a complaint of age discrimination in an individual under the Equalities Act at this time. It is also possible that the council may have changed the regulations by the time you reach that age, which is a distinct possibility with the Welsh Government taxi bill coming through. I've informed the Welsh Government of the risk of breaching the Equality Act, and they said they'll do an assessment on this when they bring in the regulations. So here's it for you, the viewer. If, as you're not yet over 65, it would unfortunately not be possible for you to raise a complaint of age discrimination. So, however, if you know of any other taxi drivers who are over 65, in can be anywhere, who feel they are being discriminated against, please ask them to contact our services for further advice. So that they think there's a case there, because they're asking for people who are over 65 to contact them. If you're over 65, your council is requiring you to have annual medicals. Get in touch with the advisor service. I'll put the link in below to their contact page. Explain the situation to them. Provided you have no underlying health implications and it's done purely on your age, you have the opportunity here of making a difference. Now, I'm not going to say you're going to win thousands of pounds in compensation. You may not. You may not. But you will at least get your medical cost recovered. It will be sent back to you because they've acted unlawfully if it gets to that stage. It does need to be tested in court. Retirement age is increasing. People's health and long life is increasing. And regulations like this need to keep up with the current situation because this has been in place for donkey's years. And it needs to be changed. So if you're over 65, if you've been asked to do medicals every year, click on the link below, get in touch with the Equalities Service and see what sort of help they can offer you in raising the challenge. Personally, I can see a class action is being set up here. There are going to be thousands of taxi drivers who will be coming under this. I can see a get rich quick no win, no fee lawyer looking at this big time. So that's it for today. Happy driving, and hopefully next time I'm going to be in the car doing my first shift in Uber.